Hello and welcome to the Kwadology YouTube channel. It's a fairly new channel, going to cover support and how to get your quads flying, a few other tips and also some information about frames I've been designing, which hopefully will be available soon. This video is going to be about Betaflight 4.1, how to set it up with RPM filters, how to set up VTX tables, Bi-Directional Dshot, everything you need to know in one video to get you up and flying. Now it's worth noting Betaflight 4.1 does not support F3 flight controllers, so if you've got an F3 flight controller you can stop watching unless you're just interested, or you're going to upgrade, but you're going to need to stay with an older version of Betaflight. In terms of Betaflight 4.1, the main advantages of Betaflight 4.1 are they've made the tuning and tuning filters much more simpler with the new configurator. RPM filters are much easier to set up than in Betaflight 4.0. I think a lot of people had problems with Betaflight 4.0 in tuning it and getting it to fly right. I think Betaflight 4.1 has really addressed that, and it's kind of early days, but I've been really impressed with it, so I'd really recommend giving it a go. You can always switch back to what you were on before if you don't like it. So two things you need to do to get this set up is download the latest Betaflight Configurator and also set up Bi-Directional Dshot on your ESC. So we're going to go through how to do that. I'm going to be setting up this 7-inch quad, which, as you can see, very low rider. It's called the Hornet. Will be available soon, hopefully. And so the first thing you want to do, I'm going to move myself down to the corner. You're going to need to get the latest version of Heli Suite 32. If you're running Heli 32, so you can just Google Heli Suite 32. I'll put the link in the description below. Go to GitHub, and then it tells you where the downloads are. Download from Google Drive, and when it comes up, so if you're running Windows, you want Heli Suite 32701. Obviously, there's a Mac version here, Linux, etc. And you're just going to right click on that and click download. I've already downloaded it, so you'll get a zip file. You can right click on that and extract it all. Once you've extracted it, you've got Heli Suite 32. It's worth noting, if you've got Heli S ESCs, the Heli firmware doesn't support Bi-Directional Dshot. However, you can get it up and running. If you go to jflight.net, they've actually developed firmware for you to run Bi-Directional Dshot on Heli S ESCs. You have to pay for the firmware, it's licensed. It's $2.37, or if you're in the UK, about £2 an ESC. Or you can buy the licenses for $6, or a pack of 20 licenses if you've got a bunch of quads on Heli S still. The other thing that's worth noting about Bi-Directional Dshot, and you can find this if you just Google Betaflight Dshot and RPM filter, is if you're running a Maytech F11 flight controller or a Crazy BF4 or a Mamba F11, you may have problems with the quad with Bi-Directional Dshot not working properly due to timer conflicts, which is basically something built into the board. You just need to go, after you've set it up, to the CLI and type in these commands to fix it if it's a problem. And we'll go through, as we go through the setup, how you'll know if it's going to be a problem or not before you get to the point where you're going out to fly. So once you've got to that point and you've got the right software, if I open up Heli 32, this is tiny on the latest version on my laptop, but I'm going to plug the quad in. You obviously need to plug a LiPo into the quad to power it up. And then what we're going to do is hit connect. Oh, we did. I didn't have to select the right COM port. It was connect. I'm just going to read the setup. So that's all running. I'm actually running through 32.7 already, but what you need is Heli 32.7. You actually need 32.66 or higher, but 32.7. So if you go in here, I'm running a Teco 32 F3 4.1 ESC. That's the ESC. It's got an F3 chip on it, not the flight controller. And you want to hit 32.7. You can click OK, and then do you want to flash the firmware? In fact, we'll just go through and do this. It'll say yes, writing flash. We'll move this down. So flashing the ESC, and then you'll go through and do all 4 of those. It does take a little minute. So once one's done, say successful, click OK. Do you want to write current settings to the JESC? I do. You might want to just set them up from scratch. Target ESC2. Okay. Yes, we'll go through it again. While we're doing that, I'm going to take the opportunity to show you some Kwadology frames that will be coming out soon. So this is a Mozzie. It's a little 3S 65mm micro. I think it weighs in all built up about 48 grams. Absolutely rips. Add a little advert to myself into the video. So ESC2 is done. Click yes. And then ESC3, we're going to flash. Yes. Time for another advert commercial break. And this is the Wasp. Hard to see on a webcam, but this is a 5-inch low rider, so it's got a 10mm ride height. You can't pick that up on the video, but it keeps the battery really low, so you've got a really low centre of gravity. The camera and the GoPro have got a huge amount of adjustability on the angle. Again, coming soon. Oh. Move myself out of the way. Yes, we do want to write current settings, and we're going to flash ESC4. So anyway, hopefully subscribe to the channel if you're interested in some of the frames that I've been working on. A lot of people have been test flying over the last sort of, well, nearly sort of 8-12 months. Hopefully they'll be available for people that are interested to purchase soon, but they've been holding up very well. Well, I'm really pleased with them anyway, as you'd expect as somebody that's designed them. Okay, so yes, we want to write the settings. So that's all set up. You can just check 3.27, 3.27, 3.27. Now you've got to unplug and repower your ESCs for that to take effect. So in fact, it tells you. Rebooting flight controller. Oh, not in tune. So we'll just unplug and plug that. There we go. Powered it up and powered it off a couple of times. So we've now got BL Heli 32.7, which allows us to do Bi-Directional Dshot. So I can close that. The next thing we're going to want to do is get the latest BL Heli Configurator. Betaflight Configurator. So if we just Google Betaflight Configurator, again, I can put a link in the video below. Going to releases. So the latest version is 10.6 release candidate 2. You do need to be running Betaflight Configurator 10.6 to run Betaflight 4.1. So release candidate 2 is the latest version at the time of this video. To get it, you just go down to the bottom. If you're not familiar with GitHub, at the bottom of that file, you'll see a little arrow that says assets. Click on that and download whatever is the right one for you. So I'm running Windows, so Windows 32 would be the right one for me to download. I've got it already, so I'm not going to download that. Mac OS, whatever else you want. So then once you've got it, you'll download the Betaflight. That will have downloaded Betaflight Configurator installer. Run that. It'll have installed Betaflight for you. So now we can open the Betaflight Configurator. So mine may look different. I've got the dark theme, so just so you're aware, if you click on the little settings icon there, you can have the dark theme on or off. It's new. I like it, so it's on. I've also permanently enabled expert mode, which I find helpful. So we can plug the quad in, and what we're going to want to do first of all is flash the firmware to Betaflight 4.1. So if you click update firmware, and we want release candidate at the moment because Betaflight 4.1 has not actually been released. Whether you enable expert mode is up to you or not. So we're going to have release and release candidate. And so what you'll see with Betaflight 4.1 is they have unified targets. So there are targets for your flight controller that are, we'll say, legacy, which are the old configured ones. And then the new ones you install, and then it configures kind of what all the pins on the board do afterwards. So I've got a Kakute F7. We're going to use the latest target, which is that one. Make sure you tick full chip arrays. So at the time of this video, 4.1 release candidate 6 is the latest version. It may be that 4.1 is released by the time you watch this. We're going to load firmware online and then flash firmware. So you can see when I press flash firmware, it actually put the flight controller in DFU mode. If it doesn't put it into DFU mode, you've got two options. The first one is hold down the boot button on the flight controller while you plug it in. Probably a real pain in the arse, depending on how easy it is to get to your boot button, if it's built into a quad. Your other option, which I think is an awesome piece of software, is Google Impulse RC Driver Fixer. Download that, and then you run that application, and it will put any flight controller directly into DFU mode. Great if you're having problems connecting the flight controller. If you can use that to connect a flight controller and then just disconnect and plug it back in. It takes it out of DFU mode, but you'll find it will still connect. So programming successful. Before we do anything else, we're going to connect, and you'll see this notice. There are custom defaults for this board available. Normally a board will not work properly without them. Do you want to apply custom defaults for this board? Yes, you do. Apply custom defaults. If you do not do that, the pins and the ports and everything will not be set up correctly, and basically your flight controller won't work. So it's important that you do that step. And then we can press connect and connect to the flight controller. I'm just going to wiggle the quad around. You can see that's all working. So first thing I'm going to do is set up the ports. So on this quad, I've got the receiver on UART 6. I've got smart audio on UART 1. And I don't have anything else plugged into it. I've got camera control, but it's on motor pin 5 on this quad, so I'll set that up in the CLI. So save and reboot. So we've set the ports up, so the next thing to do is go down to the configuration tab. So X quad or whatever you're running. I'm not going to run my motor direction reversed because otherwise I find in turtle mode it sprays shit into the camera. But obviously you might want to do that. For Bi-Directional Dshot and RPM filters, you're going to want Dshot 300. You can try 600, I'll explain shortly. Motor stop I have on. Bi-Directional Dshot you need to tick. Motor poles is really important you get the right number, otherwise this is not going to work for you. So 14 is pretty common. You can look on the motor product page and it'll say something 14p probably, or however many poles it's got. You can count, as it says, the magnets on the bell. I can tell you I've got Xing 2208 motors on this quad. I've also got Checksum 2306 and 2806.5, and they're all running 14 motor poles. So that does seem like it's pretty common. kind of answer. System configuration, in terms of update frequency, you actually want to run 4K for bidirectional Dshot and RPM filters to give the information time to go back. I think it's very not noticeable between 4K and 8K. You can try 8K. Dshot 300 is appropriate to running 4K. If you're going to run at 8K, you might want to try Dshot 600. I'm going to turn the accelerometer off. I do have a barometer, no magnometer. This quad is the, can't spell, Hornet freestyle version. Obviously select your receiver, serial based receiver, and I am running Crossfire. And then down here, I do have an LED strip. I am going to turn air mode off because I like that on a switch. And I don't have a beeper, I'm using the motors. I like beeper tone 3, and I want it to beep when I hit switch. This lot doesn't matter because I don't have a beeper, it's just the motors beeping. I can save and reboot. So connect again, and then we'll run down in order. So battery power, so this I'm going to, I don't know what the scale is for the current meter on my quad, so I need to fly a few batches and see how many milliamps I get put back into it, and then I can set that up. PID tuning, so this is one of the big changes with Configurator 10.6 and Betaflight 4.1. So you won't see these sliders if you're running Betaflight 4.0 or older. It'll only be if you're running 4.1 that these sliders actually appear. Weirdly, I've got expert mode enabled. I hadn't ticked it, so it was ticked. But so normally, for to guard you from smoking stuff, they limit how far you can move these sliders. If you hit enable expert mode, it allows you to move them further. So I would try your quad on defaults. As a general overall hint, if you've got a high-powered quad, so a lightweight quad running 6S, you're going to want to turn the master multiplier down a notch or two. If you've got a heavy 5-inch quad or something that's sort of less power to weight ratio, this is a 7-inch quad, so I'm going to just notch that up a little bit and see how that goes. And then the other thing I'm going to change is, because I'm flying freestyle, is my item relax I want on gyro, and I'm going to set the cutoff for 10 to start with to see how that works. I'm going to save that. And then rate profile is now on a separate tab. Same as before, just put in whatever your rates are that you fly with. I fly with 170 degrees. I don't know why I've got an RC rate expo of 0.03. I'm sure that makes virtually no difference, and I wouldn't notice not having it, but I think I probably in the early days flicked a switch by accident, knocked something by accident and put that on, and it's just the rates I'm used to now. TPA, same as Betaflight 4.0, is only on D term, so it's suppressing your D term. The new defaults, it kicks in lower. I think it was 1.450, so like 45% of your throttle. Now it's coming in at 25% of your throttle, and it's weighted to 0.65, which means it will kick in, and by the time you reach maximum throttle, it'll be 0.65. So that obviously reduces your D terms a little bit as you go up the throttle. Save that, and then filter settings. So this is where all the magic's happening. So again, you've got sliders at the top to adjust your gyro and D-term filter multiplier. Generally, I believe it's advised you want to keep these roughly level with each other. If you're adjusting those, you don't need to adjust the low pass filters here because they are adjusting it for you. Probably for simplicity, it's best to sort of try the sliders out, at least to start with. RPM filter is turned on. I'm not sure if it's turned on by default, but we are running the RPM filter. Filter harmonics number. So effectively, because you've got 4 motors, it applies a filter to each motor. So because they can all be running at different speeds and be producing noise at different frequencies. So if you had it at 1, you would actually be running 4 separate filters, 1 for each motor. The idea of having it on 3 is you kind of have echoes of the noise from a motor. So this is if you like, filtering the initial motor noise and the first and second echo. Now, if you've got a good built 5-inch quad, you can probably turn that down to 1 or 2. Because this is a 7-inch quad, I'm going to leave it on 3. Now, the dynamic notch filter, because these RPM filters are going to take out so much noise, you can reduce the dynamic notch filter, because obviously this is adding a bit more latency because you're adding more filters. So the suggestion is turning this down to low or medium. Because this is a 7-inch quad, I'm going to put it on low. And the dynamic notch width, so if you're not aware, previously the dynamic notch filter was actually 2 notch filters with a gap between them, so it completely attenuated any noise between those notches, and then it kind of cuts off very sharply. Because we're effectively just going to be tracking frame resonance with this, we're going to turn this down to 0, which means it reduces it to 1 notch, and turn the quality up to 250. And then I'm going to hit save. I may find that I want to lower my filtering, or add more filtering, in fact, lower the filter numbers, but increase the sliders and lower the filtering, because it's a 7-inch quad, but I want to fly it and see how we get on. So we're going to save that. The receiver, very quickly, let's turn the receiver, transmitter on.
Welcome to VTX.
And well, hopefully you should see your receiver responding if you've bound it and set it all up. Thing to check here is just check your endpoints are correct, going from 1000 to 2000. Well, mine go to 199 because I can either get it to 199 or 2001, so I'd rather it be in range. I don't run any deadband. You probably don't need to change any of the smoothing, so nothing to do on that tab. Modes, let's quickly set up the modes tab so I know I'm on auxiliary 1. I have my arm switch, and then beeper I'm going to have as auxiliary 4, which is just the modes beeper for me. Blackbox, I'm going to add a range because I like that to be on a switch to record. So there we go. And then I also have air mode on a switch, just because I like to be able to arm the quad without the props spinning at times. And finally on turtle mode on a switch as well. And that is everything I'm going to set up for the moment. Adjustments, surveys you don't need. So next thing to do is go to the motors tab. So at this point you need to make sure all your props are off, unless you've got an excess of fingers and you're not fussed about them. Take your props off, plug the battery in, and then you need to tick this box. And all we're going to do at the moment is just turn this up, and you can see here you've got error. So this shows you, if I unplug the battery a second, you'll see. Why isn't that working? Well, it's not. So anyway, what you want to do is plug your battery in. That would probably say 100% when the battery's not plugged in. But effectively, when you turn the motor speed up, you just want to check that this error number, which is the S telemetry, is staying at 0. So like I mentioned, if you'd got a Maytech F11 board and you're getting errors there, you're going to need to type this into the CLI. Or if you're trying to run 8K, and Dshot 600, try that and see if you're getting errors or not. So that's all good. This is probably a good time to check your motor direction is correct and all your motors are spinning the right way as well. And if not, you can obviously go to BL Heli Suite and change the motor direction. So I'm going to unplug that. OSD, I'm not going to go through how to set this up. The thing to note in Configurator 10.6 is they've changed the OSD layout, so everything you can add on is in alphabetical order, which is a nice touch. And then video transmitter, so this tab is completely new. So you're going to have to get smart audio working, you're going to have to set up this page and set up a VTX table. So in order to do that, you need to know what kind of smart audio you're running. So you can go to your VTX's product page from the manufacturer and see what kind of smart audio it is. Or the dead simple thing to do is go to Blackbox, the Blackbox page, switch this to smart audio. If I can find it, smart audio, hit save and reboot, click connect and go to the sensors tab, and then untick all of these because you only want to see the debug because you've just set the debug mode to smart audio, and you can see at the top this is running at 0. If I plug my quad in set powers at the VTX, you can see this shoots up to 216. So if you get 216 here, you're running smart audio 2.1. If you've got 200, you're running smart audio 2.0. And if you've got 100, you're running smart audio 1.0. It's really important that you know which version of smart audio you're running. So with that done, we know I'm running smart audio 2.1. I am actually going to go back to the Blackbox tab and change that because I'm going to want to do some Blackbox logging, and I know I'll forget later to gyro scaled. I'm just going to put that on 2K ready for doing Blackbox logging later. Connect. So we can now go to the video transmitter tab. Ignore the stuff at the top for the moment. We need a VTX table. So what you want to do is go to this page. And it will give you some charts. So whatever, here we go. If you're running a tramp, you're going to want to click these. If you're running smart audio, so if you've got smart audio 2.0 or 2.1, I don't think there's many running 1.0 these days. You want to click on the relevant file for you, and those will put in frequencies that you can use in your region. So you can right click on that, and it will say save link as or save target as. I'm going to save target as. We go to quads, and you can see I've already saved it. So let me save that again, but just save the files you want. Now it's worth noting that it does restrict the channels you've got to what you can legally use. So I think if you're in the EU, you can legally use, if you're on race band, it's like race band 2 to 6. If you're in the US, you can use all 8 race bands. So let's download that. In fact, we can have a look. So load from file. So I'm 2.1. If I load the EU one, you can see my VTX table here. Anything with a 0 is basically mean it's been kind of barred from use. So you can see if you're in the EU, these are the race band channels that you get. Load from file. Luckily, as I'm clearly in the US today, I can run all the channels in race band. And once you've downloaded the VTX table you want to use, the other thing worth knowing is where you've got this little factory tick here, where that's ticked, your flight controller is basically sending a message to your VTX saying use band A channel 1, and your VTX has the tables programmed into it to say, well, I know that's 5865 in terms of the frequency. Where it's not ticked, it will use the frequencies that you have put in here. So you can pick any frequencies. So if there's a mix of frequencies you use regularly, you can put those into one band and kind of create your own band and call it whatever you like. I think with Smart Audio 2.0, it's frequencies that are set that you can pick from. I believe with Smart Audio 2.1, it actually tells it what frequency to change to. So I think you can put in kind of any number within the frequency range of the VTX there, but I haven't tested that. It's probably best to keep to sort of the preset ones to continue to avoid kind of confusion and problems. Once you've done that, you need to set the number of power levels. So I've got a rush tank Ultimate. It's got 4 power levels. It does 25, 200, 500 and 800 here. You don't include pit mode, so pit mode doesn't count as a power level. I know it's a kind of lower power level, but ignore pit mode for this purpose. Now, this is where it gets a little bit more complicated. If you've got Smart Audio 2.1, this is dead simple. These values will just be 1, 2, 3, and 4. Nice. If you've got Smart Audio 2.1, these are the dBm values of the milliwatt power. So the way to find that is if you go to Google milliwatt to dBm calculator, again I'll put a link below, just click on that. So the first one we want is 25 milliwatts, press convert, 13.914 milliwatts, that's actually set up. The next one is going to be 200 milliwatts, which is 23. I haven't put that in as 200, it should be 200, so that's 23. Then we want 500, 27, and 800 is 29. And we're going to save that. Now, if you've got that VTX multiple times, that's the Smart Audio, you can click Save to File and create your own file. You can see I've done it already actually, and that will, you can just download that file in future instead of having to reset it up yourself. So once that's done and saved, this table up here, if you can set what frequency you want it to be on. So I'm going to select race band 8, power level 25, click save, and then when I first power the quad on, I'm not going to be searching through for which channel it's on. I think it was sort of on something near race band 3 by default before anyway. So I know my quad's going to come on to that, and then obviously I can change it through Smart Audio anyway. So we're going to click save there, and that's sort of the complicated stuff done. LED strip. So I've got some LEDs to set up, so I'm just going to hit while ordering mode 1, 2, 3, 4, and then if you don't know, you can hold down Control to highlight them all. I just want them to be a colour. You can play around with stuff like that. Blackbox I've already set up, so that's everything. Well, I hope you found that useful. If you do, really appreciate any subscriptions and likes. It encourages me to make more videos. If there's particular things that you want to see videos about, leave a note in the comments. I'll see what I can do. Please do check back, because as I mentioned, I am sort of working on some frames which hopefully will be on general availability over the next few months. It's quite exciting for me personally anyway. So thank you very much for watching. Cheers.